Hello, good morning. You're welcome to the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. My name is Rome Paulson. It's Friday, the 7th of March, 2025. Thank God it's Friday. How are you doing today? On today's breakfast, you'll be looking at several hot topics, one of which is militants threaten oil installations over River State crisis. Much later in the show, we'll be discussing International Women's Day with the theme Accelerate Action. Tomorrow is International Women's Day, and it only makes sense for us to celebrate women today, every day in the month of March, to be honest. So happy International Women's Day to all of the women across the globe. You're making giant strides, you're doing amazing work, ensuring that we're putting our foot into the boardroom, sitting on the table, and congrats to you all. Congrats to all of us, because we're putting our hands on the plow and ensuring that the next generation can have women who inspire them and who are doing amazing things in their respective fields. So much later in the show, we'll be discussing more of that and how to accelerate action, especially if we're looking at the next 10-20 years on what women's life could be like. Alright, so we'll also be taking global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies, as well as some top trending stories. But first, let's hear our quote of the day. And our quote of the day says, the healthiest response to life is joy. And that is according to Deepak Chopra, he's an Indian-American author. And he says this morning, in a very short quote, the healthiest response to life is joy, being happy. Right, you have to be happy. I know that a lot of times life would give you lemons, but you make your lemonade out of it. Life is ups and downs. It's never a straight line, and every day you're probably having to deal with one crisis or one issue or another. But how do you respond to that? How do you respond in the midst of the crisis, in the midst of everything going awry? It is ensuring that your response is a joy. So choosing joy, and for some weird reason, when you're happy, no matter the situation, it makes it seem like it's half solved, right? And of course, a happy heart is a healthy heart. When you're thinking too much, that's when you start to have things like high blood pressure, you start to fall ill. But when you're happy, when you're thinking of good things, regardless of what the situation might be, regardless of what reality may look like, you just find yourself being better. You find yourself being able to even think better, think of, good solutions to that problem or to that issue. And that's what, Deepak is saying this morning, that the healthiest response to life, the healthiest response to any crisis is just having joy, making sure that you are happy regardless. Enjoy the moment. Most times we're really in crisis mode and having to manage the crisis, and we forget to actually live in the moment. We forget the process of it all, soaking it in, basking it in. And what you should be doing is embracing joy so that you can enjoy all of the moments. So the healthiest response to life, regardless of anything, like I would say, is ensuring that you are happy, you are glad, you are joyful, and you're thinking well, thinking straight, meditating on good thoughts, so that whatever you're going to do next will be a very good decision. So once again, in Deepak Chopra words, the healthiest response to life is joy. So choose joy this morning as you go into your weekend. Choose joy. All right, let's move over to our top trending stories. This first one says, Nafdac cracks down on adulterated beverage producers. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, Nafdac, has vowed to make life difficult for those involved in producing adulterated beverages. This follows the arrest of 52-year-old Anthony Chidi in Port Harcourt's Mile 3 Market for washing used bottles of alcoholic beverages for reuse. Chidi, who started the illicit business over a year ago after relocating from Aba, was caught with a variety of equipment used for producing fake drinks. This included empty bottles, gallons of ethanol, and packaging materials. He confessed to sourcing labels and packaging materials from Aba while acquiring used bottles in Port Harcourt. Nafdac officials have warned anyone still engaging in this illegal activity to cease or face severe consequences, including potential jail time. Chidi is currently under investigation, with his case being handled by Nafdac's Enforcement and Investigation Directorate. One issue that we definitely have in Nigeria is fake drugs, fake drinks, fake everything. And sometimes I wonder why, especially when it has to do with food, right? When it has to do with things that people would ingest into their system. How do you make a fake drink and you're expecting people to put it in to their system, regardless of whatever the case might be afterwards, the reaction that they could have to, to that drug or to that food or to that drink, it is ridiculous, right? This is a health hazard we're talking about here. A person could die. We've seen where people die from fake Panadol, like paracetamol. You're taking paracetamol and you die because it was fake. It wasn't the right thing that was supposed to be ingested into your system at that time. I love the fact that Nafdac obviously is, because this is not a today's thing. This has been for years, right? And Nafdac obviously is trying their best to crack down on this. But here is the issue. It feels like sometimes Nafdac would wake up and they say, you know what, yes, we're going into the markets, we're going into the nooks and crannies and ensuring that we have an operation sweep of anyone who is doing like illegal activities such as, adulterated food or drugs or whatever the case might be. And after a while, they remain silent. And these people will continue their operations again. Why can't we be, on their cases for as long as possible, having your marshals in the markets, making sure that everything that goes into the market for people to consume is of great quality, because that's the job of Nafdac, to ensure the safety of what we're taking in. A lot of businesses do not even have Nafdac registration numbers. Some of them have fake Nafdac registration numbers. Some of them, they probably do, but there was no inspection being done because they've been able to grease the palms of somebody. So these are things that we really, really need to look into. And the question is, why are you even making fake drinks in the first place? I know that in, there's some areas, maybe in Aba or Onitsha or whatever, you see people make things and put a label over it. For instance, you can see a shoe, and the shoe would have a designer's name splashed over it. Meanwhile, it was made in Aba. Why can't we be proud of the things that we make here? Why can't it be Chidi and Sons? Who said, anybody has to put the big names? Fine, I know a lot of times in Nigeria, we always feel like, when it's something that is foreign, when it's something that is being imported, it means it's of better quality. But do you know the resources that we have here? We have animal skin here. And those are things that people will take from here. The leather that they take abroad to Italy, to other countries, make amazing bags for you, put a huge price tag on it, and you would buy it. So we need to start to ensure that we're, patronizing Nigerian. We're buying Naija to grow the Naira, right? We're buying Naija to grow the Naira. We're patronizing them so that they don't think that they need to make something, put a different name on it, and then, of course, that's how they make their money. But notwithstanding, especially when it comes to things that are of consumption, it is illegal to make anything without the approval of Nafdac, without having your Nafdac registration number, because people could die. You're putting people's health at risk. So please, if you're into that business, now is the time to stop it. Nafdac, please, we don't want you to stop here. We don't want you to, go into a rampage, crack down on these people, and before you know it, you lay low again. No, make sure that every single day it is your mandate to ensure that the safety of what people consume in Nigeria is of great, importance. That's what we expect from you. All right, another story this morning says military men invade Ikeja Electric headquarters, assault workers. On Thursday, March 6, military personnel invaded Ikeja Electric's headquarters in Lagos, reportedly assaulting staff members. The armed men, who arrived around 7:40 a.m., forced their way into the office, gathered workers, and beat them, as shown in certain videos. The invasion disrupted the company's operations, causing widespread fear among employees. The attack follows a power disconnection on March 5 when Ikeja Electric cut electricity to the Nigerian Air Force logistics base over unpaid debt. The base has been without power for 2 weeks, raising security concerns over sensitive equipment that could be damaged due to the lack of cooling systems. The military's actions have left Ikeja Electric staff terrified, with many choosing not to return to work. The company's operations remains shut down, and tensions continue to rise between Ikeja Electric and the Nigerian Air Force as the debt issues remains unsolved. First things first, how is the Nigerian Air Force owing? In fact, I mean, we've heard that Asorok was owing, for electricity. They were having electricity bills that were unpaid. But isn't this embarrassing to hear that the Air Force base is owing and they have to have a power cut? Especially now when we're talking about prepaid meters. So how come they're still in postpaid? They're owing a lot of money and there has to be a power cut. And then you now come with an abuse of power, walk into the offices and beat the employees. Are they the ones that told you not to pay your bills? Of course, they have to do their jobs. I'm just doing my job the same way you're doing your job, ensuring the safety of people, right? So I'm doing my job to ensure that you pay me the money so that we can sort out the staffs, right? So why are you coming in here to beat the staff? Why are you not finding ways to talk to the boss or whoever is at the top to ensure that these monies are being paid and power is being restored? Or come in to have a consensus and saying, you know what, this is what we are going to do. After all, we're working for this country. Everybody has to be in tandem and, restore the power. We'll find ways to pay or whatever the case might be. Why are we abusing power, walking into the office, gathering the staff, beating them because they were just doing their job? That is ridiculous. Imagine someone coming here and beating me because I'm broadcasting to the world and, giving certain information that are true and that are factual, and it's just me doing my job. It's an abuse of power. I know that, Nigeria might not be the best at the moment, especially when it comes to the economy, and maybe money isn't flowing as it should be, but it doesn't mean that you go and you abuse people and you violate people's rights. That is violating their fundamental human rights. It's quite unfortunate, and I think the Air Force base definitely needs to respond to this, because you should be leading by example. Imagine if people had a showdown at some office and they came to call you. Of course you would say they were abusing their office or abusing power, whatever it is, but you're doing the exact same thing. So how are you supposed to lead by example? Pay your bills, or reach a consensus, have a conversation about it. It's as simple as that. Not going there to intimidate the staff, because that is clearly intimidation as well as abuse of power as well as domestic violence. You're violating people. So it is definitely not the best way to go. And it's so sad that, the Air Force base is owing. All the money that is being allocated, what are you using them for? But what do I know? All right, move over to another story. This also talks about electricity in Nigeria, and it says tariffs increase to boost power generation to 7,000 megawatts. The Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelabu, has announced that the proposed electricity tariff hike will increase Nigeria's available power generation capacity to about 7,000 megawatts. This follows the country's record peak electricity generation of about 5,801.84 megawatts achieved recently. Regularizing tariffs is seen as essential for unlocking the full potential of the power sector and improving generation and distribution. Adelabu explained that the government plans to address a tariff shortfall of 1.94 trillion naira for 2024 and legacy debts of 2 trillion naira to power generation companies known as GenCos. The tariff increase will help bring consumers closer to paying for the energy consumed and allow the sector to progress towards a stable, reliable, and efficient power supply. The minister also highlighted the recent milestone in Nigeria's power sector with an all-time high of 6,003 megawatts in available power generation, alongside a peak generation evacuation of 5,801.84 megawatts. Adelabu emphasized the importance of continued reforms, collaboration among stakeholders, and infrastructure upgrades to maintain progress and support economic growth. So basically, everyone would obviously have their tariffs increased. Last year, we saw that Band A customers definitely had their tariff increased to about over 300%, to be honest. So they were paying about 68 naira per kilowatt to over 200 and something, and it was a whole lot because it was a jump. It's not a situation whereby maybe it was increased by 20%, 30%. We're talking 300%. And for some people, they said the power was epileptic. So right now, even for band B, C, D, whatever band you fall into, you might be paying a bit more. And the idea is to ensure that, you know, we have better power supply in Nigeria, because one of the issues is we have three different tiers. You have the generation companies, which are the gencos. You have the transmission company, and you have the distribution company, which are the discos, right? So the generation companies, they generate as much as possible. The transmission company, on the other hand, is still being owned by the federal government, and we can only transmit a few. So a lot of wastage is being done because we cannot transmit as much. And in fact, this is where we're seeing the milestone of over 5,000 megawatts. For a while, it's been about 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. And then, of course, the distribution would only distribute what is being transmitted to them from the transmission companies. So like I said, there's been a lot of wastage. I can understand that you're saying, you know, you need to put certain infrastructure in place. But the truth is, do people have the purchasing power right now? And power is something that is important, right? You need electricity for almost everything in the world today. So do the people have the purchasing power to be able to buy electricity, knowing fully well that subsidy is gone? We're buying fuel at a very expensive rate. I know right now it's come down to about 800 and something in certain filling stations, but it's still expensive compared to how much we used to pay for it before. Knowing that, of course, we have certain tax reforms, knowing that, you know, you have to pay stamp duty, so many things, bank charges, taxes, all of that. Do people have that money? Are people do they even have enough to put food on their table? Because if we're talking about inflation, for them to now say they want to be able to pay their rent, they want to be able to transport themselves to and fro, you know, their offices, do they have that money to be able to buy power at whatever rate, you know, is being put out? The government needs to do something. I don't know what it is, but go to the drawing board, look for what you can do. If you're not going to subsidize fuel, maybe you have to subsidize electricity. Maybe you have to subsidize education. You just have to do something. How are you cushioning the effect of the economy on the people? Imagine what the common man is doing. So now you're trying to maybe tell people that they might not be able to afford electricity in 2025. Because minimum wage is still 70,000 naira as we speak. And of course, that can't even do anything. A bag of rice is way more than 70,000 naira. Transportation is expensive, but you have to move. Because if you have to work, you have to move. So how are people supposed to cope at this time? This is where we need to look for funding. And to me, I mean, I'm not an expert in this field, but whatever capital expenditure you can gather, you know, capital funding, that's what you should be looking at. Making sure that our power generation is something, you know, that we have enough, not epileptic power. Look at South Africa. South Africa, you know, has a population of over 60 million people, and they generate over 8,000 megawatts. We're still talking about 5,000. We're celebrating 5,000 megawatts in 2025. It's ridiculous. A lot of things needs to be done in our power sector, and this is where the minister, all the people who work around him, need to go back to the drawing board and say, what can we do? How can we fund this? Because we have epileptic power, you know, system in Nigeria. What can we do better to ensure that we have sustainable power for people at an affordable rate? That's what we want to hear. And then when you've gone around to look for that solution, you can come to the people and present it to us. Our final top trending story this morning says gunmen killed 24-year-old in Ogun village attack. A violent attack occurred in Shuke village, Ota, Ogun State, where gunmen killed a 24-year-old Sahid Jidanu Shoboyede. The Ogun State Police Command condemned the attack, calling it senseless and brutal. The police have launched an investigation to track down the perpetrators. The incident took place on February 27 when a group of armed hoodlums led by a man named Elijah stormed a Muslim prayer ground in the community. They fired indiscriminately, causing panic among residents. Shobayede was rushed to the hospital where he was later confirmed dead. Police recovered 3 expended cartridges and 2 spent AK-47 rounds at the crime scene. Authorities are urging the public to provide any information that could help with the investigation and bring the culprits to justice. First, we'd like to say may his soul rest in peace, but this is definitely an issue in Nigeria, because we still have challenges when it comes to security. And when we hear of, village attacks, this is not the first time. I mean, if you go up north, you hear of that a lot of times. Banditry, terrorism, the list is endless. But it's important that, our security operatives are always on standby. They're always there to ensure the safety of the people. It's sad that this young man had to lose his life, and going into his worship ground, it's just quite ridiculous. And I mean, we're supposed to be brothers and sisters. We're supposed to be one Nigeria. Why are we killing each other? What are we doing? It's just really, really sad that every day in the news you're hearing things like this, where people are being killed, people are being kidnapped, people are being maimed. It's ridiculous. We need to come together, work together, ensure that we have a better nation for each other. Our condolences goes to the family of Shoboyede, who obviously has lost his life in this attack. But it's important that the culprits are obviously brought to book. So anyone who has information, please do not hesitate to contact your nearest police station about this. All right, that's it for our top trending stories. We'll go on a short break. We'll look at the weather. When we return, we'll be reviewing the papers. So please stay with us.